Hello and welcome to Minukuu tutorials. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at how to resolve or if you want to fix one of the most recurrent or common errors in R, which is warning message or error. Argument is not numeric or logical, or sometimes you may see need numeric data. Now, all that R is simply trying to tell you is that the variable that you are trying to to analyze is not numeric. Meanwhile, per the analysis that you are trying to do, a numeric variable is required. Let's assume you want to calculate the mean of the mean gender of a class. This is not possible. Or the mean color of a particular set of flowers. It's not possible. We cannot calculate the mean of a character or a categorical variable. However, we can calculate the mean of what? A numeric quantity, for instance, age, size, etc. So it's very important that the variable on which you are trying to carry out your analysis, if this particular variable is supposed to be numeric, then you must do so. You must make sure you have chosen the right variable. It could also be that, let's say, you are carrying out even more complex analysis like linear regression. Okay, in linear regression, the dependent variable is supposed to be what? Numeric. You cannot carry out regression unless it's a logistic regression. If you want to carry out linear regression, the dependent variable is supposed to be what? Numeric and never categorical. So if you are carrying out be simple linear regression or multiple linear regression, and you have made a mistake and have chosen a categorical variable as your dependent variable, you get this error. It could be any other form of statistical analysis, as far as the condition is that the variable in question be numeric or logical, then you must make sure you choose the right variable. However, sometimes you might have chosen the right variable. For instance, I want to calculate age, mean age. I've actually set mean into brackets data $age, which means I'm actually selecting the variable age within my data set. However, I still get this error. It could be mind-blowing. It's simply because when you read your data set into R failed to consider so it's just a systemic error within R. R failed to consider age, for instance, as a numeric variable. But in your conscience, R was supposed to consider age as a numeric variable. So we're going to look at this particular problem, how we can fix it. Okay. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, we'll be using the rich data. The rich data is accessible in R. You could just say data into brackets rich and you can load it. I would show you that quickly, but I will read the data. I have the rich data on my desktop in the form of a CSV file, so I would just read it into R, and then I'll show you, in case you want to practice alongside with me, then I'll show you how to get the rich data from R. Okay, so let's head on to the desktop. I have my data set here, the rich data in the form of a CSV file. Simply right click on it, click on properties, click on security, and I'll copy the full file path here, or the object name, copy it, and now I'll come to my RStudio or R, whichever you are using, and let's name our data set d data. Okay, I don't know how we should call it. Data tutorial. So just say data underscore tutor or data tutor. Let's leave it long like this. Is okay. So the data tutor is equal to read, since it's a CSV file, .csv, and then into quotations we're gonna paste the file path that we copied. Okay, and now after this we'll just change this. Either you put double backslashes or single forward slashes. Okay, All right, now what are we going to do? I think the name of the data set is too long. Let's reduce it. Let's make it data what? Data, just like this is okay. Whichever name you want to give your data set, don't mind me. Sometimes I'm always too complicated. Okay, so data, let's leave it this way. We have just named our data set data if you want. You could put your name, whichever name you want to give your data set. Okay, without much ado, let me read this into R. And select it and read it into R. Okay. Alright, so R hasn't given us any error, which means it has successfully read the data set. Now let's simply print our data set. Print into brackets data. Okay, and let's see what it contains. Like I told you, it's the Irish data set. So we have our data set here, as you can see. It's simply a data set of flowers. I don't really know the history behind that, but it's a data set of flowers. I think if you want to know how many flowers, you can just say dimension dim into brackets data, and it will tell us how many, the dimension of or the size of our data. So basically we have what, 150 variables. Okay, sorry, 150 individuals or 150 flowers, and then 5 variables or columns. We could just say header or head into brackets data, so that it would tell us, it will just show us the first 6 rows out of the 150 rows. So we have this. So you look at the variables here, we have what, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and then species. So among all these variables, which one is numeric? You could say all these are numeric, right? And apart from species is what, categorical. So if you want to calculate, let's say, the mean of species, it's normal that R would give you an error, this particular error. But sometimes it's not just because let's say, okay, before that, there's something important. Okay, I would like to remind you that if you would like to also have this particular data set to practice alongside with me, simply write in your, just simply execute this code. Simply say data into brackets, then you write Irish, okay, in quotations this way, so that you can load your Irish data set. It's the same thing that I have saved in the form of an Excel file. Okay, if you'd also like to transform the Irish data set into Excel format, please click on the link that just appeared on the top right corner of the video. But if it's not necessary, let's just continue on the topic of today, right? How to fix this particular error. So now, after loading Irish, in case you want to practice alongside with me, just load Irish this way, and after which you get down and you say what, that's just it. Anytime you want to, if for example, if I should say print into brackets Irish, you're gonna get the same data set that I'm using. So anytime you want to, in case I'm just showing you how to obtain the data set, it's the same data set. If I should say here, so instead of you using data as I've written here, I've named my data with the object data. In your case, you just say what, always use Irish all the time. Just use Irish as the name of your data set. If I should say head into brackets Irish, you realize that Irish contains the same thing. So it's the same data set. So if you want to practice, you don't have to, even if you don't have the data in the form of a CSV file, this data exists already in R. So just say data into brackets Irish and load it, the data is called Irish. So anytime you simply use Irish and you always have your data set. Now let's continue. Like I was telling you, if we try to calculate the mean of species, okay, if we try to calculate the mean of species, let me take it again. The mean of species is not possible because species is what? A categorical variable, okay. But first of all, before you carry out any analysis on your data, if you want to prevent some of these errors, like warning that you know what, your variable is not numeric or logical, if you want to prevent some of these errors, before you carry out any statistical analysis on your data set, make sure you first of all, so a solution, we haven't even looked at the problem, but if you even want to prevent this particular problem, anytime you have to analyze your data set, first of all, make sure you what, so you use the code or the function str to look at the structure of your variables or the nature of your variables before you proceed with the analysis. So let's assume that I want to calculate the mean of a particular variable here. It could be sepal length or sepal width or anything at all that is numeric. So but before I do that, it's better to say str into brackets data. Now when you do this, I would show you the nature of all the variables. So if I should run this, let's see. Now R is telling me that sepal length is numeric. What should we call it? This one, sepal width is numeric, petal length is numeric, petal width is numeric. However, species is a character, and it's actually true, it's actually a character. Or if one is categorical. You get what I'm saying? Now, after having looked at the nature of your variables, you can proceed with the analysis. Why is this so important? Because there are instances whereby after reading your data set into R, you would be surprised to see that when you say str to brackets data, you'll be surprised to see that sepal width, which was supposed to be numeric, is considered as a factor. Meanwhile, these are actually numbers. So you could be surprised to see this, but it happens. So when this happens, it's simply because R failed to consider, probably R considered, let's say, sepal width as a character. Meanwhile, it's not a character. Species, however, is a character. So first of all, before you do any analysis, use str to bracket the name of your data set, and this will show you first of all the nature of your variables. So after having done this, if there are certain variables that have not been correctly read by R, in other words, or recognized by R, in other words, the R has not considered their true nature. Let me put it that way. For instance, R considered a variable that was a character as numeric, or a variable that was numeric as a character. Now I'm going to show you how you can do the conversion and prevent any problems when you are doing your calculations. But like I was saying, I think mathematically we all know that we carry out mean on what numeric variables. So let's make the first error. So first error, let me say hashtag first error. The first error is what that we are going to commit is what? Calculating mean. For instance, like I said, it's not just necessarily mean. You could be doing regression, you understand? So let's say calculating I don't know, it depends on the operation. Let's say calculating mean, example, calculating calculating the mean species spaces. This is not possible, so it will give us this error. Let's try it. But this most of the times, this is not why people have this problem. At least before you even do your calculations, I don't think you'll be trying to calculate the mean of gender. It's not possible. You definitely, you yourself, you know it's not possible. But I'm just saying, for the benefit of the doubt, sometimes you might have mistakenly selected gender instead of age in an attempt to calculate mean. So let's just say make this mistake just to show you the nature of the error first of all. So it's the first error, after which you will look at how to handle the second error. So now let's say mean into brackets, we are to calculate the mean of what? Species over here, which is actually a character. Now if I should say mean into brackets, data, then we use the $sign and select species. Okay, this would give us this error because it doesn't make sense according to R. You cannot calculate the mean of a character. So you can see it here. This is the particular error that we are talking about. You see it. Warning message in mean.default. Argument is not numeric or logical. Returning any. So this is exactly the problem that we're talking about. It's simply because you are trying to calculate the mean of a categorical variable. In other words, a character or a factor, it will not work. However, the other problem, as I told you, has nothing to do with you mistakenly selecting the variable. It has to do with rather the recognition of the nature of your variables. So that's why I told you, before you proceed with any analysis, use str into bracket the name of your data set to make sure that you look at what, in your case, if you are following me, you say, if you are following me, you say what? Str into brackets Irish. I used data to name my data set this way. That's why I keep on using data. But if you have to load the data directly in R, make sure you use Irish in time you want to write the name of your data set. Yeah. Okay, so it will not give me any answer. It will give me definitely an error. Now let's move on to the next second error. So solution. So the solution here is what? Solution for the first error is make sure that the variable you are choosing is what? Numeric or logic, or depending on, or logical, depending on what you are doing, the kind of calculation you are doing. So this is the solution. Now let's move on to the second error. With the second error, sorry, I think this is systemic. This is systemic. Okay, so with the second error, it's simply systemic. R failed. R considered, let's say R considered your variable to be a character or let's say a factor. In other words, a categorical variable. Whichever the case is, R failed a character. I think character is this way, right? R failed brutally to consider your variable as a character, R considered your variable as a character or a factor. In other words, R failed to consider your variable as a numeric or logical value. So let's assume, for instance, as I told you, after you set str into brackets data, you realize that, for instance, sepal length was considered as a character instead of numeric. then this is exactly what we are talking about. What that means is that, if you try to calculate the mean of this particular variable, even though they are numbers 1, 2, 3, R will still give you the error. In this case, there's no problem. Now I will simply create this error. So let me create the error. In this case, after we read the data set into R, fortunately we did not have this error, but I will just intentionally create it. So I'll create it by simply converting this particular variable, which was supposed to be numeric. I will intentionally convert it into a factor. So let's say, for instance, if I should say data, to convert it into factor, let's say example, let me make an example. R recognize, if R had recognized sepal length as a character instead of as a character. Let's just say, leave it this way. If R had recognized sepal length as a character, when we try calculating, even though sepal length is actually numeric, as you can see, these are numbers. If we try calculating the mean of sepal length, it will give us the same error. Now I'll just create this error myself. Okay, so I'll try to convert sepal length into a character. Okay, so let's look at that. So to convert sepal length to a character, how do we do that? We just say data, you write the name of your data set, data, then we use the $sign, data this way. We use the $sign to select sepal length, and then we say is equal to, right, and then we would say as dot character. For instance, I'm trying to convert it into a character, right? If you want to convert it to numeric, you say as dot numeric. So I'll say as dot character data, then we use the $sign, data with T, we use the $sign sepal length. So this is how we convert a particular variable into a character format. Okay, so the variable in real sense, after we use str, we realize that this particular variable is well imported or well read by R. It's actually a numeric variable. However, we want to convert it into a character. I'm just doing it deliberately, but R could have made this mistake systemically. You understand what I'm saying? So let me run this. So we are simply saying consider sepal length. So I selected sepal length by using the $sign within our data set as what? A character. So we are saying within our data set, consider this particular variable as a character. This is exactly what we have done here. Now if I should run this, I intentionally created this error, right? So let's run it and see. Now after we have run this, let's look at the nature of our data set again. So if I should say str into brackets data, you would realize that, let's see now what happens. You realize that sepal length has been considered as what? A character. What that means is, should we calculate the mean of sepal length, R will give us this error. So sometimes after you have read your data set into R, you haven't yet touched your data set, but R could automatically consider a particular numeric variable as a character or a factor. So if you don't use str to know the nature of a data set and you just proceed, in this example, I intentionally created an error, but because R did a perfect job here, but sometimes it makes this mistake. It will just consider this variable as a character. Meanwhile, the variable is numeric. So when you want to calculate the mean, let's say you want to calculate the mean or any kind of calculations that require that the variable be numeric, it will give us this error. So mean, let's say, of data $, separ length, we have the same error. You understand? So when you get this error, meanwhile your variable in question is composed of numbers, so it's numeric. Meanwhile, you try calculating your mean or any value, regression or whatever, and it tells you that your argument is not numeric or logical. It's simply telling you that R made this mistake. It considered your date, one of your variables, or the variable in question, it considered it as what? As though it was, as if it was categorical or character or factor. Meanwhile, it's actually numeric. So you have to do the conversion. Now, when you use str and you realize that, okay, no, but normally h is supposed to be numeric, meanwhile it's character. Now I will convert it into what? Numeric myself. So to convert it into numeric, how are you going to do that? You simply say, for instance, data $, sorry, data with t this way, $, separ length is equal to as.numeric. So you remember when you wanted to convert to character, you would say as.character. If we had wanted to convert it to factor, then we would have said as.factor. Whether character or factor is the same thing, is categorical, but numeric is different. So we say as.numeric into brackets, then we say data $, separ length. So we are converting it back to numeric format. Now if I should run this, and now if I should show you the nature of our data set, str into brackets data. Now separ length is numeric, which means after you have corrected this problem, so this is actually the solution. So this is the solution over here. Okay, let's call it solution before I forget. So this is the solution. So the solution to this problem, the second problem, is what? Simply convert your variable to numeric using as.numeric function. Okay, using as.numeric function, simply convert your variable to numeric using the as.numeric function, and that's what we have done here. So first solution, before you read your data set into R, use str and look at the nature of the variables. If a particular variable was supposed to be numeric, meanwhile it's not, you use what? As.numeric function to convert the data set into numeric. Now proceed with the calculation of your mean and you don't have any problem. Now if I should calculate the mean by saying mean, after I've converted it into numeric, now if I should say mean into brackets data $, separ length, it will not give me the value without any problem. See, it has not given us the mean value. So like I said, it's not just limited to calculation of mean. I'm just using mean because it's the commonest thing to do. It could have been anything other thing. It could be regression if the dependent variable is supposed to be numeric. Meanwhile, after you read your data set, R considered let's say the dependent variable was supposed to be sepal length, but after you read your data set into R unfortunately considered the sepal length, which in real life is numeric as a character. Then you have, after using str, and you have realized that this particular problem, you simply use the as.numeric command and convert your variable sepal length into a numeric quantity. Now you can proceed with your regression. In our case, we are calculating mean after we've corrected it. Now we can proceed with what? Our mean, and it has given us the mean value. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope it helped. Please subscribe.